Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am Mr. Kadim Khan and I am a lecturer in the Institute of Computing, Kuwait University of Science and Technology. Today we will take lecture number 25 of the subject of software quality engineering, in which we will discuss the software quality bugs. Software bugs are in fact those errors which can deviate the actual use of the program. So software bugs creates lots of problems. They can damage the data or they can perform the invalid operation as well. So it is important to deal with the software bugs. The bugs are also called errors as well. So here we can use the interchanging words for bugs as well as errors. This is the discussion agenda. We have software errors or bugs. Here we will define what is the error and bugs. Then we have software debugging. There are different tools which are used for debugging the softwares. Then we have reasons of software bugs, why there will be so many bugs in our softwares. There are 7 types of software errors or bugs. First one is called functionality error. Second one is called communicational errors. Third one is the missing command errors. Fourth one is the syntactic errors. Fifth one is the error handling, that is the error handling errors. Sixth one is the calculation errors, and seventh one is the control flow errors. Now here we will discuss each of them in a detail and also provide you in easy examples to identify certain errors in the software systems. Software errors are bugs. First we will define or we will explain here that what is the software error or bug. Basically an error is a deviation from accuracy or correctness. Means that when errors occurs there will be no accuracy or no correction or no correctness in the softwares. So if you want accuracy and the correctness, the software should be free of the all errors. So a software bugs is an error. It is an example of the errors in effect are a flaw or a failure or a fault in a computer system or a programs which causes us to produce the incorrect or unexpected results or to behave in unintended ways. Basically, when there is a bugs, then the softwares will be not useful. Sometimes, when there are such a serious bugs, that will make the softwares very much bad. In fact, if we use the manual system, then that will be much better than such a software which contains a lot of bugs. So it will cause the softwares to behave unintended ways, and also the results will be inaccurate, and all the functions that are created by the software will be failed or they have certain faults. So we should buy certain softwares which are free of bugs. Exactly like when we buy the Windows, we need very much advanced version of the Windows. For example, there was a bug in 2000s, and that bug was because of the incorrect calendar in the softwares. So that bugs also caused malfunction of the many softwares. So that's why we have to remove such a bugs before delivering that softwares to the customers. Software debugging. Software debugging is a process to identify the bugs and then fixing the bugs. There are many compilers with us, for example C++ compiler, similarly the Java compilers, and similarly the C# and Visual Studio compilers. All these compilers identify the bugs and then they gives you the specifics informations about the bugs, that where this bugs is in fact in which lines, and also identify the reasons for the bugs. So we use debugging. Debugging means identify that bugs and then solving that problems, that is called debugging. And we will use certain formal tools and techniques to pinpoint the bugs and then we will resolve the bugs. And that is in fact from the 1950s. So debugging concepts is in fact starting from the 1950s and so on. We have the different compilers and tools that perform debugging. So some computer systems are designed to also to detect or autocorrect various computer bugs during the operations. So when we identify the bugs, then bugs should be auto-corrected as well. There are certain tools, for example, in the Visual Studio, when you want to automatically correct the particular line of code, then you use the autocorrect options there. Also, there are many interpreters and compilers which has a very strong help modules, and that help module will help you to resolve the bugs. So, software debugging is in fact a special techniques used to find out and resolving the bugs here. Now, why there are so many bugs in our softwares and why the bugs are occurring? So, most bugs arise from mistakes and errors made in either programmers or design side. Means that when we program the softwares, the programmers makes many mistakes or the programmers make many errors. So during that development times and also in the designs of the softwares, the designer create a lot of bugs. So that affects causes the main source of the bugs. And then the bugs will be in the source code or in the component of systems or in the operating system used by such programs. So the bugs will be in fact in the particular source code or in the components or in the particular operating system which uses the particular softwares which contains the bugs here. So a few caused by compiler producing incorrect code as well. So there are a few compilers which are not of high standards. They also create the bugs as well. And then the incorrect code will be created which will be called the buggy codes. Types of software bugs or errors. There are mainly 7 types of software errors. These 7 types of software errors that everyone tester should know about it. Basically, the testing is the responsibility of software quality assurance personnel. So, the software quality assurance department should have the knowledge about these 7 types of errors in the software systems. So, otherwise, the softwares can be crashed as well, and which will give us the wrong results, and then the customer expectation will not be fulfilled here. So a good software quality engineer should know about the 7 types of errors in the software systems. Number one is called the functionality errors. As its name indicates, the errors in the functionality is called the functionality error, and it will be intended to provide the wrong functionality when there is the functionality errors in the software system. So the functionality errors is the way the software is intended to behave. So means that the functionality errors will in fact make the software to behave in an unintended way. So basically software has a functionality errors if something that you want to expect, that is the customer needs to do is a hard, awkward and confusing or impossible tasks. So the software's functionality errors will result in on the confusion which will lead to the customers to do a lot of hard works or to perform some awkward works or to confuse the customers or also to perform some impossible task that makes the software crashed. Impossible means that, for example, if we have a loop which is infinite loop and then the software will be running and no output will be created until the software become crashed. So these are the examples of different example of the functionality errors. Here we will provide you an examples here. You can see that the expected functionality for the cancel button is to cancel this registration. So when we create a new project, that means that, for example, we are creating a new project here. So that is test NB is the name of the new projects, and profile is TNB, and there we will type the descriptions of about the project. Then we want certain features, we will check certain items here, for example, testing, priority test, automations, etc. Then we can make it availability either active or the public. And when we click on the create buttons here, then the project will be created. And on the cancel buttons, the project will not be created. That is, this whole operation will be cancelled here. So expected functionality for this cancel button is that create new project window should close and none of the changes should be saved. That means that no new project must be created. So, but if cancel button is not clickable, then it is a functionality error. Means that if cancel or even that create button is not working, which means that the software is not creating the new project for us, then that will be the functionality error, because one of the two or both the two buttons are not working here. The second types of errors called communication error. These errors occur in the communication for software to the end users. Means that when there is some communication from a software side to the user sides and there are certain problems in that communication, that is called the communication error. So here's some things that the end users needs to know in order to use the software should be made available on the screen. Means that when a user is using certain items or certain units of the functionalities, then that should be available to the end users. For examples, if there is no help provided to the end users or help instruction menu is not provided, so feature that is the part of release but not documented in the help menu means that certain features which is not documented are mentioned in the help menu of the softwares. So that particular communications has the problems, and that is the communicational errors from the software side towards the end user side. So that button named save should not erase a files, etc. For example, there is a certain button which is used as a save that should not erase a file, because saving the file means that that file will be permanently saved on your hard disk or in your database files or in your database record. But if we click on the save and that erases files, that means that there is the gap between the communications between the softwares and the user, and the gap is on the side of the software systems, not on the user side. So it means that that is some misleading functionality in the software system. Third one is called missing command errors. The missing commands is a certain errors in which certain required commands are missing in the software systems, or a certain required functionality is missing in the software system. So that particular errors will happens when an unexpected command is missing. Now see this output or a screenshot here. Here is the create buttons which creates a new project for a user. But there is no another option to exit from this project or to cancel this creating the projects. For example, if I want to cancel the project, I will click on the cross buttons which will close this window, but I don't know what is the current state of all these entries. So there should be the cancel button as well here. So since there is no such a cancel button provided to the user, So this is the missing command error here, because there is create buttons only but no cancel buttons here. So that is the missing command errors. The fourth one is called the syntactic errors. Syntactic errors are grammatical errors, are the misspelling words errors. So syntactic errors are those errors which are results in the misspelling or wrong spelling. Words are also the result of grammatically mistaken mistakes. Means that there are such sentences which have the spelling mistakes or the grammatical mistakes used in the software's GUI. So these are very evident that while testing the software GUI, all these syntactic errors should be checked and tested here. So here you can see that in this GUI there is a yes, no and another button, that is cancel button, but here the spelling mistake is there. You can see that the compiler will run this software, but there will be syntactic errors in the GUI of the software systems. And that is not referred by the syntax errors in the codes. That is, syntactical components will not identify that error in the code, and that syntactical component will be the part of the compiler. You can see that the cancel spelling is wrong here. That is the syntactic error. So we have to correct the cancel spelling. The correct cancel spelling is this one, CNCEL. And similarly here is the message, are you really want to save the content? So you can see that this is not grammatically correct message. Now it's up to you how you will write a correct and grammatically true message here that should be according to the grammars of the English. For example, here you can, are you really want to save the content? The exact message may be, for example, do you want to save the content? Do you want to save the content? So you will, in fact, that is the grammatical mistakes also is like the sentence mistakes here. Next is the number 5 errors handling technique. In the error handling errors, the software do not provide the meaningful informations. There will be, in fact, the problem in the informations provided by the messages. So the errors that occurs while the user is interacting with the software needs to be handled in a clear and meaningful manners. So there should be a very precise and meaningful informations on each and every errors. When a user is making some mistakes, then the messages will help the users clearly. So if not, it is called the error handling errors. So take a look at this image here or this message here. You can see that in this message there is a certain text, something bad and then okay. So what is something bad here? There is no certain informations about the errors that, for example, database is not working because the database is in fact is has some bugs in the database. The file is not accessible because the file is not in the read mode. So there should be the exact message here that will help the end users to find out that what is the problem on the software sides or what mistakes the user has done here. So that should be very much meaningful here. If we go back to the previous example, that is syntax errors, Syntactic errors are very much clear. For example, save changes to the test documents are here. Are you really want to save contents? So there is a spelling mistake, cancel automatically from the sequence. You can understand that either yes option should be clicked, no option, or none of the both, that is the cancel option should be clicked here. While here you can see that are you really want to save contents? That means that still we can understand the message. Even there is the grammatical mistakes, but still we can easily understand the message here. But in case of the error handling errors, the information provided are incorrect and insufficient as well. That something bad has happened. So what something bad has happened in the exception? That is the EVG 7.1 message in fact. And it is a generalized message. But we should avoid from the generalized message that what is something happening which is the bad. So there should be the specific message to the end users that this error is because or this task is not performing because of the um, particular sort of the errors. So error handling errors should be defined in a very much clear way. So when possible, further steps should be less strict to the end users. Means that there should be further sub steps that this problem is because of these sub problems. So if the software has certain mandatory fields that is needed to be filled before they can be saved or the information on that particular form is saved, then the validation message should be clearly and indicative of the action that is required by the user. So all the validation should be on the user sides when there is something wrong happening. Here is the another example. This is also one of the errors messages problems. That means that there is no proper error informations. For example, you can see that here there is a certain error message and the error message are mostly provided with this icon, that is the cross icon here, and there is the error title, but there is no certain error message. Just here you can see that multiple types of the files and with their names with the extensions are printed here. So there is no certain message that the problem is because of this error message. And also you can see there is another C directory, Windows assembly, etc. There is the files which has been printed here, and this is the df syntax.df files. So but here there is no suggestions about the error. So there is no clear informations that why there is the error message. So this types of message, the problem is called the error messaging. So secondly, you can see another example, no error occurred. Even here you can see that there is no syntactic problems here. Also, it is very much meaningful that no error has occurred, but this message is unnecessary by overall. If there is no error, then the software should proceed smoothly to the next steps. Means that this message will be required when there is a certain errors occur. You can see this is the error message, but software has performed its functionality, but still there is a message no error occurs, and when the user will click on the OK, then the software will proceed to the next steps. So this message is unnecessary and it should be not there in the program. Another types of errors is called calculation errors. As its name indicates, these are certain errors which has the calculations are bad programming problem. So this error occurs due to any of the reasons. And the reasons may be number one, the bad logic. Bad logic means that there is the bad syntactical are bad programming steps followed by the programmer. Means that the sequence of the programming is bad and no correct and standard sequence has been followed. There is some that is some statements are omitted. For example, the formula for calculating the GPA is wrong. Similarly, there is some infinite loops in the softwares, or the switch statement is not working here. Similarly, there are certain variables which are declared int, but the user is typing the float data there, then that will be the bad logic problems. Second one is called incorrect formula. Incorrect formula will be that formula which has some missing values. For example, when we want to calculate the average, then average is equal to the summation of all items divided by the number of the items. Means that when we want to calculate the average of the student marks in 5 different papers, then the average will be summation of all 5 papers marks divided by 5. And if it is divided by 4 and total papers are 5, then that will be the incorrect formula. Next one is data type mismatch. That errors is mostly occur on the programmer sides. Means that when the data type is wrong or initialization of a certain data type is wrong, then that will be the data type mismatch problem. For example, if we are assigning the integer values to the strings and then we perform the calculation on the strings, which will not be happen, just it will be concatenated. For example, in case of addition, the strings will be concatenated with each other. That is called the data types mismatch problem. Next one is called the coding errors. The errors in the programming is called the coding errors. Make sure that this is different than the bad logic. The logic is based on the thinking of the programmers. What is the logic of the programmer? But the coding errors are those errors, for example, the exceptions in the program. That is the coding errors. So certain errors that is based on the programmer side is called the coding errors. Function call issues. Mostly we call the function in our program. If we call the wrong functions, then that will be the function call issues. For example, if we are calling the square root and in fact we want the power function there, then it means that we have called the wrong function. And also if we have called the user defined function and we are providing the wrong parameters to the function, then that will be the function call issues as well. So we are calling the wrong function or we are calling the exact function, but we are providing the wrong parameters or arguments to the functions. Here is the example of calculation errors. That is a very big mistake that is what occurred in 1999 at a NASA project where NASA lost its Mars climate orbiters. That is very much important because of the calculation errors. When the one subcontractors of NASA employed used English units instead of the intended metric systems. Here means that the one of the contractor, the programmers has implemented this distance finding in English units. And then as you know that the English unit of measurement is yard or feet, while in the America or in the US there is the metrics of measurement is based on the meter. So they have provided all the measurement based on the English units, but the NASA requires the Americans units for the measurements. So that caused the orbit's thruster to work incorrectly because one output is the input for another module. So that's why that particular thrusters has performed incorrect functions. And due to this bugs, the orbiters crashed almost immediately when it's arrived at Mars. So, for example, at the ground sites, they were thinking that still there is a long distance, but the orbiter provided the output in terms of the English unit, which is the feet or yards. So the ground station teams thought that we are not still landing, but it was all about to land there at Mars. So immediately they have found through certain cameras that our space shuttle is very much near to the Mars. So then why they have in fact landed that particular NASA satellites manually on the surface of the Mars here. Next one is called control flow errors. Control flow errors of softwares occurs when it will that what it will be the next and conditions that are occurring in the program, and that is the errors which occurs in the control flow of the programs. We have different loops and different conditional statements in our programs. For example, transfer of controls from one module to another modules. We have loops as well as conditional statements, if else and switch statements, and also we have the loops like for loop, while loop and do while loop statements. All the errors in these particular transfer of controls will result in the control flow errors. For example, if we have a system where a user has to fill a forms or an option available to the users, for example, save as and close, save and close, and or can cancel. So you can see that there are multiple functions: save and close, and just cancel here. So if a user click on save and close buttons, and the user information in the form should be saved and then form should be closed here. If clicking on the button doesn't close the forms, then it is the control flow errors. Control flow means that if two or more than two modules are combined with each other to perform the functionalities, that is the save and then closing, that is the, and one of them is not working, then it is also called the control flow errors here. Dear students, now this is the end of the lecture. This is the book reference for you. The book is Bit and Bugs, a scientific and historical reviews of software failures in the computational science, and it is written by Thomas Huckle and Tobias Nick. And you should download this book and you should study this book for more topics about the errors and faults and numerous sites and failures. So this is very much important books for you, and hope that this book will give you the deep knowledge about the software's errors, faults, and erroneous states. So, and still, if you have any question, you can ask that question through the email. My email is m.kadim@kust.edu.pk. I will wait for your questions and will respond you immediately as soon as I get them. Thank you very much.